Hey, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Extra Feature Interviews. I have a fabulous guest who lives on the West Coast, so she maybe doesn't like making them on the East Coast. We'll find out. Sophia Aguila, meet me under the bleachers. I think I'm close. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm South Jersey born and raised, so East Coast
Oh,
superior, definitely.
oh, there we go. Here we go. So let's start at the beginning. Where did this idea come from? Because I feel it's like a lot of time travel here, a little bewitched here. Where are we going? Or it could be anything. It could be a Cinderella story. I could give you 100 options for your short.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a lot of comps. I took a lot of inspiration from classical stories and classical films. So, definitely I actually didn't write it with the intention in mind of Cinderella, but then someone brought it up to me and obviously I can't unsee it. So definitely it's kind of a modern twist on a Cinderella story. It was very much inspired. A few summers ago, I did like a work study with my college in LA, and I was just getting really inspired by the industry around me. And so I had decided to move out here. And so this was my undergrad thesis. It was my goodbye letter and like a love letter to the East Coast before coming out here. And, I just work out here. I'm, hoping to head back east at some point, but yeah, came from just, saying goodbye to my hometown and definitely came from my love for nostalgic 80s movies. Takes place during like a homecoming dance, so I was taking a lot from like John Hughes, Breakfast Club, Dirty Dancing, all those classic feel-good coming of age movies.
So you just told me this was your thesis, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you get to use your whole class then for the thesis project? Or do you have other actors commit?
Yeah, so we're welcome to use people in the school or use exterior resources. I had an amazing casting director who was actually one of my roommates that summer, Cass. She had helped with setting up some online casting calls on the East Coast, and so most of our actors were from New York, PA. We had one actor come in from Long Beach, and so she's located out here, but she has family back east. But yeah, definitely a very locally born film. And then a lot of classmates were made up the crew. So it was a lot of underclassmen, a lot of people in my class, and then a few alumni who were still in the Philly area.
So how does that feel getting it all together for the first time? I mean, this is a big project for you. You spent a long time getting here.
Yeah, yeah. It was really, really fulfilling. It was there were a lot of moments throughout it that, again, it was very much, it was my last project in college. It was very much a goodbye to the East Coast and kind of, I guess, a thank you letter to, in that case, to, everyone I'd met and everything I'd learned in growing up and in college, went to school in Philly. So just it was very full circle in a lot of ways. A lot of the crew again was came back to help from having graduated the previous year, and so I was super grateful that they came. A lot of them were mentors of mine, and then this, the underclassmen are now doing their projects and their theses, and I love seeing all of that. So it was very full circle. We had our premiere at the Garden State Film Festival in March, and that was also full circle because premiering in New Jersey just meant so much to us. A lot of our cast and crew was able to come and be there and celebrate in person. Yeah, it was very fulfilling as an artist to work in that community. Absolutely.
Okay, where are the bleachers located? The school. Let's get into that. It's fun stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So we ended up shooting at the bleachers scenes in the college that's in my hometown, Rowan University. That was right down the street from my high school, which is obviously, you know, my high school experiences loosely inspired the film. And so that was Washington Township High School in both in South Jersey. Yeah.
Hold on, I'm not going to off the hook that easily. You just said these high school experiences created your film.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's go to a little more depth than that. What high school experiences created this? Was going out with your parents that bad?
No, absolutely not. I definitely wanted to tap in this story into the idea of, not making the parents the villain in any way. And it definitely wanted to make the story about Lily finding a way to, as she's maturing and she's, accepting her identity as an adult and figuring out what adulthood and her identity looks like to her, how to kind of bring that home with her and how to, how your relationship evolves with your parents over time. When you're a kid, it's a different relationship than when you're a teen, and then obviously that evolves when you're an adult too. And sometimes it's a rockier than other times. So definitely wanted to touch on that side of things. That was the main kind of story that I wanted to tell with Lily of finding herself and finding a way to express herself that um, made her feel fulfilled and also fulfilled those around her by seeing that she was a complete person and she was finding herself. Um,
What?
yeah, and then the character Eli in the story, who definitely has been called in a bunch of different iterations, the fairy godmother character, definitely was inspired by a lot of my high school experiences of discovering more of the world and discovering new friends and new found family. And so a lot of that for me in high school, as well as middle school, was discovering this community of what happened to be a lot of queer friends. And a lot of them ended up being really amazing and loving mentors to me throughout my life and throughout growing up and figuring out my identity and figuring out how to be confident in myself and what I believed in. And so Eli definitely is a love letter to all those friends as well, and the idea of the queer mentor figure in people's lives. Yeah.
Okay, I want to go back. Where's you have dinner somewhere? Where's that dinner located? In a house or a restaurant? It's kind of hard to tell.
So the dinner is meant to feel like a restaurant, definitely kind of feeling like South Jersey, a mom and pop Italian restaurants. Sometimes it feels very cozy and definitely can feel like it's at the home. But we actually shot it in kind of a hybrid of that as well. We shot it in the like rec center of the Hunt Club, which
Uh-huh.
is like an apartment complex in Washington Township. Uh, but yeah, so they luckily let us come in and decorate the space and bring in tables and all that, and made it to kind of look like a very homey restaurant.
Okay, I'm going to walk you through a scene and I'm going to have some questions.
Yeah,
I wrote walking into the escapes. You know what I'm talking about when I say that?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we have a very distinct color change in the
Mhm.
thing. Now, is that a color correction? Or are you adjusting lights or is that a filter change? Because you know exactly what I'm talking about when it happens. You have her Lily walking in this one color and then she comes out, it's a different color. And it's a literally like a quick second. If you're not paying attention, you miss it.
Yeah, it's the footstep, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's two different shots. So that is we had different versions of dollies. I think one of them was kind of our in indie filmmaking and in student filmmaking we call them shitty rigs. One of our shitty rigs was putting the camera on a skateboard and sliding it if the
Okay.
dolly rails didn't fit in there. And then I think the other side of it was on the dolly rails because the bathroom was big enough. And then we had an amazing editor, Gabby, I think it was in charge of that shot because we had two co-editors and they were incredible, Gabby and Liz. And Gabby has a lot of background in VFX, and so she was kind of supervising those shots. So fireworks shots, and especially that transition shot. So yeah, it was two different shots, and it was just a wipe, like a
Yes.
like wipe of an edit between the two. Yeah.
Okay. I still want to discuss the second shot more than the first shot. Now, what are the
Yeah.
lights? Did you add the lights or is that all VFX effects?
That is practical. Yeah. So we used all yeah, we used like colored lights, we used tubes, and I think there's only a little bit of VFX in there of like particles. Like we wanted it to kind of feel like
Yes.
portal had these like magical, sparkles or something coming out of it. And so Gabby had put in just some subtle like dust particle looking VFX.
And you also have sound effects here too, correct? Very
Yeah,
minor.
yeah, yeah. So the whole portal sound effect was engineered by our sound designer Anthony Aguilar, and he and his uh, friend that he had brought onto the team, Colin Smith, had engineered all these different sound effects. The disco ball sound, and they a lot of them were recorded. They weren't necessarily library sound effects, or they were a combination of them. So that portal sound was absolutely like layered between library sounds and sounds they'd recorded, and they balanced it just the way they wanted the portal to sound, and they really wanted to make it feel big, especially in larger screen format, so that it really felt like you're in that moment with her. But yeah, they did an incredible job with that moment.
Okay. The makeup on Eli is really where I want to head to next.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot to do with that, or was that a makeup design for the makeup designer? Because I mean, he definitely has a different look.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the makeup design was all done by our hair makeup artist, Quinn, Q Bobbitt. Q is located in uh, New Jersey, I think like around Asbury Park, so around where we had premiered. So, Q was able to come to the premiere. But yeah, Q and I early on in the prep process talked through the script and what kind of each character what I was going for, but then Q really brought to life like, okay, well, what does that look like visually? What does that look like as a design? And so, would bring me kind of mock-ups, would bring me ideas, and yeah, would work with the actors then on set too, and would bring, as they were getting into hair and makeup, would bring different ideas up to me, and obviously I guess, I had final say, but like it was Q who really designed them, and I really didn't have any critiques ever. Like it was just like Q would bring something up to me, and I'd be like, yes, that's perfect. So Q absolutely understood and fulfilled the vision of this as far as makeup design, and that definitely carries over into Eli's look.
So the gym, is this still at the same school as the Bleachers, or is that a different school?
So, in the story, it's the same school, but we actually shot it at we were looking for a while at a gym that we would have access to because the days we were shooting happened to be over the holidays, and so it was either rented out because kids were like doing like some kind of off-season training, or it was closed because it was the holidays. And so we ended up shooting at the YMCA in South Jersey. I think it's in Gloucester County. And it was separate location from the bleachers, like as far as logistics, but in the story, yeah, same school.
Okay. So did you want to look like an 80s prom? Because it really felt like me were going for the 80s prom look.
Definitely, that's what we were going for. We another inspiration we took just from the idea of 80s prom, especially in the 80s movies, but even like more vintage proms. So thinking like Grease, we were getting some inspiration. So like movies that were maybe made in the 70s, 80s, but were reflecting even earlier, kind of classic Americana vibes. Another thing we took inspiration from was the dance scene early on in the newest West Side Story. And so we took a lot of inspiration from that as far as cinematography. We looked at kind of the lens flares they were using and the kind of filters that they were using and the lighting, and kind of really tried to pay homage to that in addition to kind of like a Pretty in Pink type vibe. Yeah.
Okay, you have a shot in the gym when Eli is talking. Did you
Yeah.
ADR that shot, or was he on set and you mic'd him?
We mic'd him for the close-ups, and then
Not talking about the close-up. I'm talking when it's just the dancing and we hear him.
yeah. So we ADR'd that portion. And so that was our sound designer and our Eli actor sat together and kind of looked at what he was mouthing because we just had him improving on set and really like saying whatever he felt like that moment called for. And so we took a lot of what he was saying on set, inspiration from that, but obviously not having necessarily usable audio from that. And then looking at kind of his motions and the way he was moving and his gestures and stuff. And he and Ant came up with basically a new script for that portion of like, okay, what is he saying in the background? Yeah, which I think turned out incredible. Yeah.
I forgot to ask, who made the homecoming sign at the beginning?
The homecoming sign, the banner.
The big banner.
So my mom was the production designer. She always has had like an eye for like art and arts and crafts, and she has like her own independent like sewing business, and she loves thrifting and yard sales, and I just thought this was a perfect project to bring her on in that capacity. She's always telling me because she has seen like different show business throughout her life. She always says like if she was to be in show business, she would have wanted to be some kind of set decorator or some kind of whatever. So with this being like a love letter in my hometown, I wanted to bring her on. And so she designed that and painted that in the days leading up to the shoot, and then she and the actors drew the posters that were hanging in the gym on the walls as well. They drew those the day of, the morning of, and then we set them up throughout the day.
Okay. And when you're doing your restaurant location, what was the food? Was it supposed to be Italian? Because we don't really see them eating. We sort of
Yeah.
have shots of them holding things, but I couldn't really get that was going. Well, what's the food?
Yeah. Just going for classic. We were kind of going for like a little bit of a like showing that maybe the family was choosing like less interesting food or like kind of
Yeah,
forgettable food.
that's
Because
what I thought. Okay,
really
good.
wanted to focus on the idea of like the family almost like posturing in this way of like they don't want like certain things to be like stand out about each other because they might get embarrassed of it. And that's kind of what Lily's breaking free from at the end is um being able to express herself uniquely and confidently and in a way that she doesn't feel embarrassed to share that uniqueness. But yeah, so just kind of wanted everything else to look a little monotonous. And then just as far as practicality and indie filmmaking, methods, we didn't want people ingesting the food after, 6 hours of it sitting out. Um, yeah.
So are the glasses real on Lily?
Her eyeglasses. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? I thought they were fake. I would have totally given it to you if you told me that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was interesting. She had those glasses and we used them obviously for some scenes, not for other. Um, but the grandma character, we had debated with Lily, but we ended up really liking the look of the glasses because we felt like that was a unique touch. The grandma character at the dinner actually came that day with blue framed glasses. And she kind of was looking around at everyone's costumes and she was like, "Oh, like everyone's wearing these more uh like monotone colors. Like, should I have brought different glasses? I don't need to wear my glasses." And we actually were like, no, like let's have her wearing these blue glasses because it's almost then showing that, Lily, whenever she's wearing the blue dress, whenever she decides to have this colorful moment, she is honoring her family still. She's not necessarily like rebelling against her family and her loved ones because even her grandma has found her own way of uniquely expressing herself and color in her life. Um, so she is kind of respecting and reflecting her family through her expression. So yeah. So anyway, eyewear ended up being a pretty relevant thing.
Okay. We have a shot near the end of a necklace and a bracelet. I was trying to find some meaning there. Am I missing something, or what is the focus of those two? And is there significance to you that I missed?
Yeah, well, for the bracelet shot, that is just bringing coming down from Lily to her mom's hand on her and them
Yes.
hands. The thing that I'd say is significant about the bracelet shot is also the sound effect. And that was again engineered by Ant when we were doing sound design. Um the sound is kind of almost the sound of something like unchaining. Um,
Yes.
and so it could sound like, a bracelet coming off, something like that. But it also was meant to feel like this moment of like they reassure each other, but Lily is now free to, confidently go in her own direction with her mom's support. Like her mom is unchaining that control and letting her pursue, her passion or, her confidence and her identity and chase her dreams in whatever way with her support. So that's definitely what the bracelets was meant to mean. The bracelet actually wasn't even in the script, it was just the handhold. And then
Oh,
she was wearing a bracelet, and so it happened to touch the bracelet. And Ant was like, let's add a sound effect there to emphasize the bracelet.
and
Um,
the necklace?
the necklace, I don't know. Can you remind me of where would that be just in that same shot?
It was in the exact same shot. That's why I'm asking if there was a something I'm missing deeper for those two. Because the way
Yeah,
you
I
did
think,
the shot, you did the necklace, and then you come down and show me the bracelet. So I was
yeah.
trying to figure out if she was chaining between both worlds.
Mhm. That's interesting. I do like that interpretation. I think obviously there's a lot of elements in here that, are very open to, we have a lot of different visual cues that I think can mean a lot of things. The necklace was definitely not necessarily meant to be a focal point. I think the goal of the shot was just to come down slowly from her face to the hands. But
Okay.
I can definitely see it, I guess in my mind, like if it's, considering the significance of the necklace, it might be she is still honoring her mom in that way. She's wearing glasses like her grandma, she's wearing a necklace like her mom, and the necklace stays. You'll see this even through, and it's this on a logistical side. This is just because it was the actress's necklace, and we didn't ask her to take it off. But the necklace is there before the transition and after she changes into the new dress. So it's
Yes,
again,
and then the
yeah,
bracelet shows up. So I was wondering if it was all
yeah.
as one.
Yeah, because even if like her identity is evolving and changing and she's finding herself, she's still connected to her past.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to
I never
know if I
thought of
missed
that.
something.
Yeah,
Um,
love it.
how tight were you on the final shot? Because you're coming through those bleachers and it looks tight. And then
Yeah.
it kind of expands at the very end. But the way you
Yeah.
shot it, I was like, is it handheld at the beginning and then you go to a wider two shots? Or is that all one continuous shot?
Yeah. The
I'm under the bleachers last shot.
last shot is the last shot is completely drone. The last shot
Okay.
that was just a separate rig. We had it behind the bleachers in total, and we just had our drone up go straight up. The other shots were done with our Cinecam, and so they were handheld, and they were, I think for the most part, handheld under the bleachers, and they were a bit closer because that ending was very much meant to feel like storybook, like pulling
Oh,
out,
yeah.
and we see the big picture in the end. But yeah, I mean, as far as just spatially for the rest of that scene, though, just being under the bleachers was so tight for our cinematographer.
I was
Because
wondering that. That's what I
yeah,
was going with.
yeah, because with cam mopping it when, especially when she first at the beginning of the scene, so not necessarily that shot, but when she's walking towards Bailey
Yes, they're
again,
like this big. Like I would say
it
maybe a
was
foot
so
and a
thin.
half.
And at the beginning, I kept pushing her, like our DP, I kept pushing her. I was like, "Oh, well, can we like track backwards and like walk with her?" And our DP was like, "I'm gonna hit like all of these railings if I'm doing that. So let's just like start with like maybe walk back like 2 steps as she's coming towards us, not necessarily tracking through the whole thing."
That's
Um,
what I thought you were doing. I
yeah.
thought it was like an edit shot. So you'd walked a bit, shot it, edit, splice, but you're telling me no.
No, so yeah, that last shot, that last scene, the opening shot is just one shot, but
Okay.
it only is moving like it's almost faking movement where like we're
Yes.
having the character walk and then we're just doing the slightest movement backwards with the
Okay.
camera. It wasn't like walking the whole time with her, which ended up I think looking a lot better because it almost bookended the idea of like starting a little bit wider and then ending
Yes.
wide, shot.
Okay. Casting. You
Yeah.
said you had to bring some people in because you had obviously help with your casting.
Yeah.
Was there another option for Eli or another option for Lily, or as soon as you saw them, you knew these were the ones?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously casting is always difficult. You have people who are vying for these roles and who are, incredible at their craft and at their art as actors. There was something really, really special to these actors though that pretty early on it was really clear that we were going to bring them in. Our starting with the love interest and our best friend character Bailey. She is the actor that we brought in from LA, and very very early on for her we were like, this is who we picture. I think she might have even applied for a different role, but we had her read for Bailey, and we were like, we like she really embodies this character of like comforting the main character and but still, being herself and still standing up for herself, even with all the chaos happening around her. And so we really loved bringing Haley in. And then Claire was our Lily. She is New York based, and on our first, tape that we got from her, really liked her. We brought her in for a virtual reading because all of our casting was done through like video calls. And so we brought her in for a callback, just one-on-one, with her and our casting team, and she really just we wanted to just get a little background and why she was interested in the project, and she really passionately really told us about how she really wanted to tell this story about a young woman and how it was so important to tell this story and of being a queer young woman and telling that story from a place of complexity and a place of perspective and love and care, and telling it in the form of a happy ending and really providing that representation in the indie space. And so we really when we were doing chemistry reads and me and our casting director were talking, we ended up always coming back to the idea of like there's different versions of Lily that we're seeing from these different actors, but she not only embodied Lily, she embodied the project and what the project meant and what we were trying to tell, the story we were trying to tell, the story we were trying to represent, and the love and care that we were really trying to put into the project. So she really embodied the project, and that was obviously the most I could ask for out of a main character. And so I completely adored her from the start, and she was incredible on set. The Eli character, I had worked with him previously, and so I was very confident that I was going to bring him in for callbacks and chemistry reads. He's an incredible actor. And a similar thing with him was, he had this perspective as Eli in his performance that was always unique. I would give him a note and he would run with it, or I would tell him like a little like backstory of like, oh, well, what if Eli is this magical character and Eli also, can, travel through this portal. Because when we first gave the script, we didn't necessarily say that it was a portal that he was opening. And so he was like, oh, got it. And he made this grand presentation out of it from the get-go. And it's that kind of confidence that we were really looking for out of Eli's character. And so he was incredible. I'm so glad he came on the project as well.
Okay, now we're on to fun questions. Your favorite film?
Ooh. Favorite film is probably Pride and Prejudice, the
Okay,
2005 one.
okay,
Yeah.
2005. I'm about to go. What year are we going with? There's lots
Yeah,
of them.
I mean they're all good, but yeah, because
That's the
I'm
Joe
doing a
Wright.
yes, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Yeah, I'm doing a passion project about like Jane Austen right now, and I'm taking a lot of inspiration from that. Um, yeah.
your favorite actor currently?
Ooh, favorite actor. Um, I have to say, and this might be part of the reason that we took Lily's character the way that we did. Um, I really am loving the recent work that Emma Stone has been doing and the unique perspective of like a female lead character that she puts on things. It's very unique and it's very quirky and confident. And it just feels very, very self-assured and I think that might have translated even into Bleachers a little bit.
Okay. Do you have one summer movie you're looking forward to?
Summer movie. Um, well, this week I'm going to see the Final Destination movie. It's in 40X, and as you can tell from, the fireworks shot and the VFX, I love a spectacle. I love a spectacle. Usually that turns out being something fantasy, but sometimes it's horror. And so a couple friends of mine and I are going to see that in like the 40X one where
Cool.
they're moving and all. So yeah, looking forward to that one.
Before I let you go, you can give your socials now would be a good time.
Yeah, so people can find me at Sophie Aguila Productions on Instagram, at Directed by Sophie on TikTok, and then my website is sophieaguilafilms.com. And I am always open to new collaborations. I love working in the indie space. I've worked with a few web content creators, as well as on bigger studio projects, and I just, love the world of collaboration on all ends. So feel free to reach out. Would love to connect with some more people.
Thank you for your time and have a great evening.
Thank you, you too.